everybody, it's me, Tokkuri Yashi, and it is clan battle time again, November 2024. So today we're going to be having a look at bosses we're going to be fighting this month and the teams and characters that are the best to take them on with. We're going to be looking at Warrior Chef's Google Docs again, link in the description. A Karumi website is still available, the link for that will be there with some other teams potentially on it if you want to go and have a look at them. So let's have a look at the first boss that we're going to be fighting this month. As we can see, it is the Frosthound. Now Frosthound has been historically weak to anemone. Will that be the case this time? This time Frosthound is weak to fire and dark. There are some of the descriptions of its skills if you wanted to have a little bit of a look at that. So let's jump over then and have a look at some of the teams for the Frosthound. Now, as I was saying, this month as they were releasing the Bandit Sisters, Buki and Yamato, Fire and Dark, I said, what about they're going to have a clan battle boss this month that is multi-target and weak to Fire and Dark, so you can use Yamato and Fubuki together, who work well together, and that's what we've got here. It's not the best team to use against them, but it is one of the better teams. So here we go, Yamato and Fubuki together on this Frosthound. We do have a few other teams here for Set and Forget. Anemone is featuring, but I think the best team is the one here with Summoner and Halloween Mimi. Fubuki does feature in practically all of the teams though. So if we have a look at the simple timelines, 160 million we can potentially get with this team here. A little bit complicated, that timeline. Here's one with the same team, slightly simpler, 158 million. All of them seem to have Fubuki in, so if you're going to take on this boss, you're going to have to hope that you have Fubuki or you can borrow Fubuki. There is an anemone team at the bottom here, a tower for an anemone team, 148 million, so potentially you could use that if you don't have Fubuki. There is a summary of the Frosthound. The best team there, Nea and Halloween Mimi. Fubuki, of course, Aoi Worker and Nefinera. The anemone team not doing too bad there, 148 million. The Yamato team isn't on here. If you can see, that's 128 million. So it would fit in here as the fourth best team, even though it's not on this list. So, hoping perhaps, but Yamato and Fubuki together might be an option for Frosthound. So let's jump over then in game and see how one of these teams do against the Frosthound. So here we are then with our first boss this month, Frosthound. So let's jump in and see how we can do with an automatic team. I'm going to go in with this team. Frosthound has been a little bit tricky for me to find teams that I can build because of character limitations. As you can see here, no Valentine's Day Shizuru. So what I've done is subbed here for Eris. If we could borrow the Shizuru, then it might be a better option. That team's supposed to do 128 million damage. Let's see how it does here with Eris instead. Best team for this automatic, 145 million, but you need Summit Nea and Valentine's Day Shizuru, and I don't have either of those, so we couldn't run that one. Like I was saying, this whole month, when they were releasing Fubuki and Yamato, it would be great if they could be run together, because they look like characters that can work well together, but they're on different elements. So look out for a boss this clan battle that's multiple target and weak to fire and dark, and this is exactly what we have got here. So we are going to run them together to see if this team, we had to run them together on this team. Let's give it a little bit of a try. So there we go. Without Valentine's Day Shizuru in there, we got 120 million damage. With Valentine's Day Shizuru, it was supposed to be at 128, so not far off at all. I have a little bit higher damage out of this team. It is lucky RNG crits and all of that. I guess it's whether or not Yamato's getting here crits or not, or what the damage does on this team. So there we go. That is a tip. If you don't have Valentine's Day Shizuru, perhaps you could run Eris in here place on that team. Perhaps it gives Yamato a slightly more elemental booster here damage, making it a actual fire dark team. So there we go, Frosthound. Let's move over then to our next boss. So here we go then with our second boss this month, Wild Griffin, who is weak to wind and to light. If I can find my case, so there we go. These are descriptions of his skills, if you want to have a little look at those. pause the video and have a little look at them. So let's jump over then to some teams for the Wild Griffin. Now here we go, Wind and Light, and as we can see here, we have our first appearance of Wakana, who was the third of the banded sisters we got this month. Two physical Wind teams here with Nefinera in there. A few other characters popping in. 131 million for that top team. Although it does look like for this boss, it might be slightly better if you can go with a light, or majority of light, Cecilia Wind magic team. 147 million there. New Year's hats, and you see it here. A few other variations of that if you can't quite build, like if you don't have the Summer Misora or you can't borrow hair. Not terrible about that there. So let's jump over then and have a look at some simple timelines. Here we have the top of the 160 million here with this magical team. If you want to try to run that, a slight variation of that if you can't build that top one. Then we have Wakana again, very simple timeline here, 135 million. So a summary of Wild Griffin. We can go over to Wild Griffin, that's not Wild Griffin, here we go. Summary of Wild Griffin. 160 million there. The Celia of Summer Misora team looks like the best option. Wakana does slip in there if you can't build one of those magical teams. But we're going to say this is the first appearance of Wakana. Wakana is starting to show that she is the best of the Bandy sisters, as we will see later on. So let's jump into the game and see how one of these teams does against the boss number 2 here, Wild Griffin. So here we are then with Wild Griffin. Let's jump in then with one of these teams here. We're going to go with what looks like the best automatic team for Wild Griffin here, which is claimed to get 147 million. Let's see how it does. Again, we will note here that Ceremonial Ilya is set to 4-star. Now, Ceremonial Ilya is one of my favourite characters. I have really liked using her over the years, but she's not really been used much for the last half a year or more. I'd almost kind of written her off, so that she'd been forgotten, and she was never going to be used again, which was really sad. But finally, we have got a clan battle boss where she is competitive again. So it's nice to see Ceremonial Ilya back. This is another boss that potentially you could use Wakana in a Wind physical team. Wakana's going to be really overworked this clan battle. This is the first of 3 bosses that she might be used in, that you may actually want to use her for. Luckily though, however, it does seem like this mixture of light and wind magic team is a better option for this boss here, the Wild Griffin. So perhaps Wakana can take a rest on this boss if you build this magical team here to take it on. So like we said here, 147 million, this is supposed to get, there are a few, so we've seen variations of this team. If you don't have the Summer Misora or you can't borrow here, perhaps putting Larael in instead. The options that we've got there. The Wakana options, the physical variations, are claiming to be around about 110-ish million damage, so they are a little bit down on this. So here we go. This is coming to the end of the battle here. Claimed 147 million. We didn't do quite that, but not too bad. 142 million it looks like here with this automatic team. And a quick look at the damage report there. New Year's Hatsune doing most of the damage there. There's some of Misora actually coming in clutch as well. Should mention one of the rare uses for hair as well. So anyone that did pull hair might be smiling now if they want to take on this Wild Griffin. So there we go, that is Wild Griffin. Let's move over then to our next boss. Okay, so here we have our third boss of this month, Mega Lapan, who is weak to fire and water. Again, quick look there at the skills that he does as his attacks. We'll have a little look at those. So let's jump across there and see what teams we've got for Mega Lapan. So here we go. Let's bring him into shot, fire and water, and we have got Alchemist Nozomi, another new character. newer character that we have got here. A few magical setups here. Summer Maho making an appearance again. 133 million here. If you can build that team. New Year's Hatsune making an appearance in a lot of these too. Worm, 6-star Amelia are slightly worse options, but if you can't run that team there with Alchemist Nozomi, perhaps they will be an option to go for. Another anemone team here. I'm excited to see there's a bit of an overlap with a few of the bosses here, so it might be a little difficult, or they take a bit of planning to run more than one of the same kind of element team in this clown battle. So here we go, 171 million. That's pretty big damage there for this team if you run this simple timeline. If you can borrow the Summer Maho if you need to, or the Alchemy Nozomi. 125, 130 million. A few other teams. We haven't seen this one. Yeah, this fire team, fire physical team hasn't shown up before. Automatic. I guess you're gonna have to do the timeline for that. Ilya again. See, there's one thing, the same characters popping up. So you may end up having to do a bit of planning on which teams you're going to be running and which bosses you're going to be fighting this clown battle. So where are we? Boss 3. Overview. Well, there's a potential 186 million there. That timeline might appear soon, but Alchemist Nozomi with the Summer Maho, the New Year's Hatsune, and the Ameths looks like the best bet for this boss here. So let's jump over then and have a little look at how one of these teams does against this Mega Lapan boss. So here we go then, we are with the Mega Lapan. So let's jump in with this team here, which is claimed to be the best automatic team that we can run. Let's go in and see how it does. Now on the docs, the Google Docs, does say Alchemist Nozomi, Summer Ameth and New Year's Hatsune are unset. I ran it with them unset. I honestly think it's way better if everyone's full set. It did 103 million damage with those 3 unset. Tested it and this does do a lot more damage, so we'll see what it does at the end. As we can see here, Alchemy Nozomi getting a run. If you don't have Alchemy Nozomi, then perhaps you could put in Worm in her place. That nearly does the same amount of damage, but again, Worm is another new character that you might not have. We've got New Year's Hatsune again. We did use New Year's Hatsune fighting our second boss here, the Griffin. So again, we're having a little bit of overlap here. So if you want to run this team and the team we ran previously, we're going to have to be able to borrow a New Year's Hatsune at least once if you have a yourself. Something to take into account when you are doing your attacks. We have got 6-star Amelia too. Also, that team isn't too bad. So if you have 6-star Amelia and Lariel in there instead of Ameth and Alchemy Nozomi, that team looks like it's pretty good too. There is an anemone team as well if you want to try and run that one for full automatic. So there we go, that is this Wild Lapan beating there. 128 million damage we managed to get there with full set. It says claims 133. I have had over 130 million testing this before on full auto like this. Summer Maho there being very, very important. I just must say thank you Firestem putting up the Summer Maho and a Warlock G2, which we're going to use later for me to borrow in this clown battle. It'll be very, very helpful. So there we go. That is boss number 3. Let's jump over then to the next boss. So here we go. Boss number 4 this month, Flower Cavalier. Wind and water. There's the skills and description of the skills of this boss if you want to have a little look. So let's jump across there and see what teams and characters we can take on this boss with. So we say wind and water, and here we go. Second appearance of Wakana. There is a bit of overlap between D4 and D2. D2 does look like it's better. The Wild Griffin here does look like it's a little bit better to be taken on with the light magical team than the wind physical team. So that might be the saving grace. You're going to want to use the wind physical team for this Flower Cavalier here. Wakana, it's basically the same team as you can see here that we was fighting the Griffin with, so that's where I'm saying with the overlap. But there we go, 141 million. This team does do a lot better against Flower Cavalier, which is why I would imagine you would want to use it here. Go with the light magical team on the Griffin. We've got Rin here from Idolmaster again. Potentially, as in last time Rin was here, you could potentially swap her out for the Summer Shizuru or maybe some of Yukari. That might be an option, but these teams at the bottom not doing a massive amount of damage compared to what we can do up here. So simple timelines then for this boss. 151 million here with this physical win team. Wakana showing her value. Like I said, best girl in the Bandy Sisters. Few variations as we've seen here of this wind physical team. That's basically all it is here, depending on the best setup that you can build. So let's have a quick look at the summary there. And we can see Wakana with Shori, with Nefi, with Princess Kokoro, and the worker Aoi here, the student Aoi, sorry, transfer student Aoi, in some way is what you're probably going to want to take on Flower Cavalier. So let's jump over into game and see how this team here, one of these teams here, does against the Flower Cavalier. So here we are with our fourth boss, the Flower Cavalier. So let's jump in. We will run the team that has the highest damage output for a automatic team. We will see how it does here. For this, we want to unset Nefi Neira and transfer student Aoi, and we will see how it does. I have run this team full auto, and it does do more damage if you do unset those two characters, so that is a good call. But as you can see here, this is potentially the second outing for Wakana. Wakana definitely proving here. There is, like we can say, a bit of overlap with a lot of these teams, so you have to watch out for which teams you're running. If you can borrow maybe to run the same character twice like Wakana, which is possible this clan battle. As we can see here once again, transfer student Aoi is slightly outperforming Ranger Shiori. If you don't have transfer student Aoi, then you could potentially use Ranger Shiori though in her place, or you could use them both together and forfeit Princess Kokoro here. All of these teams coming in around about 140 million damage. This one supposed to get 141 million. We'll see how we do with that. If you can't build this wind team, then there is a few water magic team options potentially if you have to go for those. But definitely here, this wind physical team is the better option. This is probably the best place for Wakana in this clan battle. So if you're only going to use her once, if you can only borrow her once, if you only have her and no one else has her to borrow, then this is probably the place that you're going to want to use her. As you can see here, 141 million damage was stated for this. We got 145, nearly 146 million damage, so it is an excellent team to use there. Obviously, the 6-star Shiori doing most damage is the only real DPS on the team, but Kana's damage output there, not too bad as well for a support character. So there we go, that is boss 4 there, the Flower Cavalier. Let's move on to our final boss then. So here we are with our final boss, boss number 5 this month, Sagittarius, who we can see here is weak to light and to dark. So there is skills that the boss does. Let's jump over and have a look at some of the teams we can take on this Sagittarius boss with. And we can see here Wakana again, even off element, is a valid option to be fighting a boss here in clan battle. 32 million with that Wakana team there at the bottom. Reportedly doing better than with the Kuku Noir in that team above. We do have a few other options here. Again, Wakana on a physical light team, more or less. Physical light team there. Doing, well, decent damage, not the best. But it seems like having Wakana and being able to borrow Wakana might be very, very handy for this clan battle. So let's have a look at some of the simple timelines. This boss, see if when we're putting in some of our inputs, changes the damage into 128 million there for the quite staple dark magic team. Wakana again 135 million if you can put Wakana on this team. If you have her and you can borrow her, might be very, very handy. 123 million there for some physical light teams, mostly physical light teams. Nephew's fire, obviously. But there we go. Wakana coming in again for the third boss this clan battle. Wakana is definitely cooking. Look at the summary then of this timeline. The best team looks like, with a simple manual there, with Wakana. If you can't do that, then there is a team, I don't think we saw that before, a manual team there with the, looks like it's got Valentine's Day Shizuru tanking. A little bit of a nice looking team there. But Wakana, even off element, is proving to be very valuable. So let's jump into game, see how one of these teams do against this Sagittarius boss. So here we are with the Sagittarius then, finally. So we're going to jump in with what should be the best automatic team for Sagittarius here, seen with Wakana in it. Let's just make sure we have it there. Wakana is on set, everybody else is set. And I can see the Hedgehog, or is it an Echidna? Is it Shadow the Hedgehog? Come in to help us out here. Now, as we can note here, that we have got a Warlock Vegeta. She's set 3-star. I did try it with her face at 5-star, and definitely 3-star is better. Did run the other team with Griffin instead of Wakana. That did about 111 million damage for me, so let's see what this one can get. Another thing to note is, I would have expected this clan battle that we would have seen an ultimate team with Persia and Korea getting the equipment. I would have thought they would have potentially been good for one of the bosses this week's deck, although both of them this clan battle are multi-tag, probably why they are not the optimal picks, which is, I don't know, maybe a little bit strange. You'd have thought that there would be a team for Ultimatum, but nevertheless, here we go with a multiple target magical dark team here. This one is supposed to get 132 million damage on this automatic setup here. Let's see what we can actually get with the Spike Brothers help there. Please help me, Spike Brothers. They did pretty good there. 130 million that looked like we got there, that attempt. Yes, 130 million. So this team is doing pretty well. Let's have a look at the damage there. The Summer Homare doing the most on this team. So there we are. That is Clan Battle for November 2024. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think of this clan battle, how you're doing with it. Hopefully you are doing pretty well. And there we go. I am Tokkuri Yashi. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all again for another video. Bye 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 bye. Hey.